friends, welcome to the official YouTube channel of Sanjeevanee Mahavidyalaya Chapoli, affiliated to Swami Ramanand Tirth Marathwada University, Nanded. Here is Department of Botany, BSc second year and third year, semester 3 and the semester of third year. Unit first, here we will discuss on different physical processes, water absorption, helpful in the water absorption. In previous video lecture, we can discuss on the concept of water potential. What is water potential and how the water potential are helpful in the water absorption. Absorption and movement of water, region of root and structure of root hairs, all the things we can see in the previous video lecture. Now we will discuss the mechanism of water absorption. How the water absorbed, actual mechanism of water absorption. Kramer in 1949 recognized two distinct mechanisms. Kramer recognized two distinct mechanisms which independently operate in the absorption of water in plants. Two mechanisms are operated independently in the plant, and that two mechanisms are helpful in the absorption of water, and that was found out by the Kramer in 1949. That distinct mechanisms are active absorption and passive absorption. We can here start the active absorption. What is active absorption? The mechanism of water absorption due to forces generated in the root itself is called active absorption. The forces generated in the root, and because of that forces the water absorption is carried out. That type of water absorption is known as active absorption, and that active absorption is of two types: osmotic active absorption and non-osmotic active absorption. Here first we can see the osmotic active absorption. The theory of osmotic active absorption was postulated by Atkins 1916 and Priestley in 1923. According to this theory, the first step in the absorption of soil water imbibed by the cell wall of the root hair, followed by osmosis. Osmotic active absorption, that theory was proposed by or postulated by Atkins in 1969, later on the Priestley in 1923. According to this theory, the first step of absorption is the imbibition. We can see during the, or we can discuss during the different physical processes. The first step is the imbibition process. In this imbibition, what happens? The hydrophilic compounds that are present in the cell wall or wall of the root hair attracts the water or imbibe the water, and later on the osmosis is carried out. The soil water, you know that soil water is hypotonic, that is less concentration, and the cell sap that are present inside is hypertonic, that is more concentrated than the soil water. So the osmosis is carried out. What is osmosis? The diffusion is carried out from low concentration to high concentration. You know that is osmosis, that soil water diffuse into root hairs along the concentration gradient, that is endoosmosis is carried out. When the root hairs become fully turgid because of more water that are gathered in the cell sap, and because of that the size of the cell is increases, that is the cell is turgid, and because of that more water is entered into the cell sap. When the root hairs become fully turgid because of more water is entered into the cell sap, because of that the concentration of the cell sap there is decreases and it becomes hypotonic, and water moves osmotically to the outermost cortical cell. So the water moves toward the cortical cell. In this way, or in the same way, water enters into the cortex, then endodermis, and then pericycle, and finally reaches to the protoxylem. As the sap reaches the protoxylem, the pressure is developed into the root pressure. As the sap reaches the protoxylem, the pressure is developed because of that sap, that is known as root pressure. And that theory, or this theory, involves the symplastic movement of water. You know that symplast and apoplast movement of water. The water, the path of water, or the water through the cell, or cell to cell movement of water is carried out here. So objections of that theory: the cell sap concentration in xylem is not always high. Finally the water reaches into the xylem, and because that theory states the osmosis is carried out, but actually the xylem concentration or sap in the xylem is not more concentration. So that the movement of water or path of water is incorrect. Next, the development of root pressure. If the theory stated that the root pressure is developed, that root pressure is not universal in all the plants, especially in trees. The pressure is not equal in all the trees. So these are some objections of osmotic theory. Second theory is non-osmotic active absorption. That theory was proposed by Bennett Clark 1936, Seaman in 1951, and Kramer in 1959. They observed absorption of water even if the concentration of cell sap in the root hair is lower than the soil water. Bennett, Clark, Thiemann, and Kramer observed the observation that when the concentration of the root hair is lower than the soil water, the movement of water is carried out, or the absorption is carried out. Such movement of water requires expenditure of energy. Such movement of water is required some amount of energy released by respiration. That is, during the respiration the energy is released in the form of ATP molecules, or here in movement of water some ATPs are consumed. Thus, there is a link between water absorption and respiration. It is evident from the fact that when the respiration inhibitors like casein, chloroform are applied, there is a decrease in the rate of respiration and also the rate of absorption of water. That is the non-osmotic movement of water. The theory stated that the movement of water, even possible where the concentration of root hairs are lower than the soil water, and that movement of water is needed some amount of energy, and that energy is utilized by the plants or the root hairs here from the respiration process. There is a relation between respiration and absorption of water. That theory states that if you kill the respiration process by using some chemicals or respiratory inhibitors, that known as respiratory inhibitors, that is chloroform or casein, we can find out that the rate of respiration decreases, the rate of absorption also decreases. So that is true. That is the correlation between the absorption of water and the respiration. Now we can discuss on the passive absorption in the next video lecture. Thank you.